Welcome to the Wealth Under Pressure podcast. Financial success very often has less to do with owning a financial product, earning a high income, or even being frugal. Instead, the path to success comes from having a comprehensive plan that enables you to optimize decisions and avoid mistakes. Join John Smallwood, a certified financial planner, as he identifies key areas of pressure on people's wealth and strategizes to reduce it. It's time to liberate your wealth.
Hello and welcome to our podcast episode number 2 with John Smallwood. Today, John's going to talk more about what wealth under pressure is and how he uses this idea to help educate clients and help them with their overall long-term planning. So, John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to see you today, or good to hear you.
Yeah. You sound great, man. Tell everybody what wealth under pressure is, please.
So, when we look at financial plans and wealth plans, whatever you want to call them, over our lives, our plan's going to have both positive pressures and negative pressures. The positive pressures on a wealth plan is a savings rate, an inheritance, a win the lottery, positive markets, positive interest. Those are things that are pushing your wealth potential up. Pressure, downward pressure, taxes, transaction costs, inflation, planned obsolescence, technological change, market volatility, your kid's not launching, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That applies pressure to your wealth and its potential.
So wealth is entirely under pressure all of the time, right? So what do you do to start balancing that negative and positive pressure out?
So one of the things that you got to think about is that when you enter the workforce and you're 21, 22 years old, you have a lifetime wealth potential. You have like an economic curve that we've all seen the miracle of compound interest, that the early parts of those, charts don't have a lot of growth. And then towards the end of that chart, the growth is, it's exponential. Okay. And the idea is that we don't know what our wealth curve is going to look like. We don't know what our jobs are going to be like. We don't know, if we're going to start a company and do very, very well. But what we find is that during life, as they say, it happens, right? There are interruptions in that wealth curve and its potential. Down markets, loss of a job, family members need money, is numerous things. Okay. So what we're focused on is that when you're building a plan, what you really want to understand is what is the financial pressure that's currently applying positive and negative pressure to my own individual plan, and what could happen based upon the circumstances that you have. Now, it's impossible to, see all the pressure that could be coming, but the idea is that within there's a lot of things that are happening, taxes, fees, increased risk, not having the proper asset protection strategies around, not maximizing opportunities that are in your plan to take advantage of. We see it all the time, people not contributing to retirement plans, getting the maximum match from their employers, they're just leaving money on the table. That's a big pressure. The pressure is coming all over, and the idea is that if you identify the potential pressure that's in your plan, then you can develop strategies to reduce and minimize the impact of it, and also position you so you can take better advantage of the opportunities that are going to present during your lifetime.
Now, this sounds to me like there's a substantial amount of client education that you do with your clients so they can understand when you bring up a specific pressure, or when they recognize a pressure, then they can come to you. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the ongoing relationship is life. As I said earlier, life happens. I hate to say that, but that's kind of the way it is. And when you and I sit down today, there's a certain amount of things that are going on in your plan. 6 months from now, life has changed. The circumstances have changed. A lot of pressures might be showing up that weren't showing up now. Okay, today. And that's the conversation that a good wealth plan, a good financial plan is constantly reviewing and assessing what those risks are. I mean, when I look at a lot of the plans that are out there and that people are doing, there's a conversation about inflation. And inflation is probably, I like to call it the silent tax. It's basically slowly chipping away. It's kind of like if you're in your kitchen this morning and there's termites in the floorboards, you don't really see them, you don't hear them, but they're steadily chipping away at your floorboards. One morning, you're going to walk in to get your coffee and fall through the ceiling and end up in the basement. Or the floor, right? And inflation's sort of like that, okay, where it's slowly taking away purchasing power based upon what the individual's buying. But there's this misnomer that goes on also that inflation is not planned obsolescence, okay? And inflation means, milk costs $1 today or $3 today, and tomorrow it's going to cost $4. That's inflation, okay? But if you think about everything that you have in your house right now, from the stove to the microwave to the TV to the computers, everything that you've ever purchased in your life is designed to wear out and needs to be replaced, okay? And when I was a kid, my aunt had a refrigerator. It was 1975, 1980. She had a refrigerator that was from the 50s. It was still working, right? She just replaced it last year. Wow. She's 85 years old. That thing's been around forever. I don't know anybody that could have a refrigerator greater than 9 or 10 years today. They don't make things the way they are. So when you start looking at a long-term financial strategy, you have to constantly be thinking about replacement of things. And that's something that is missed all the time. Also, technological change. I didn't need 7 cell phones with data in my household 20 years ago. It wasn't even part of my plan. And, $45 a line, you do the math, it's a significant amount of money that you could not have predicted in 1990 that you were going to need, this thing that was in a bag at the time, right? The little cell phone that came out.
Or a whole briefcase. I remember that too.
Yeah. And it's like, so pressure, right, is this conversation that one of the greatest pressures that I see is the family makeup. And it's both positive and it's negative, right? So you sit down, you're 45 years old, you're married, you got 2 or 3 kids, your parents are here, your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, whatever it is. And you start understanding the dynamics that are going on within the household. And you find out that mom or dad are sick, brother's constantly in trouble, kids haven't launched, and in that family makeup, there's so much potential pressure. I mean, personally, even in my own world, my father's been sick for, 18 months. That creates a pressure because of distraction, right? So you're not necessarily working as efficiently as you could have been, or you're not focused on certain things. So that creates a pressure that's going to interrupt your plan. And the idea is that if you visualize the wealth curve, right, and you think about exponential potential, every time you pay more taxes, every time you're subject to excessive market volatility or something breaks down. Like I see so many young people come in, they bought the house of their dreams, and and all of a sudden they've got credit card debt. They've never had the credit card debt in their lives, but the furnace broke and the refrigerator went down all at the same time, and $5,000 later, they're now carrying a credit card. Right? And they didn't expect it because they weren't presented with it. So, when you start thinking about all the variables in the plan, right? So a typical wealth plan deals with, you've got a certain amount of money. You're going to make an assumption. And I say that's kind of funny, okay? But it's an assumption is, how much can I make on that money over the time frame in which I'm going to put this money to work? And that's a linear calculation, right? Pressure starts to beat on that is, can I save that amount of money? Does the market go down? Does the interest rate that I'm looking at go down? Does the time frame shrink? Do I get sick? Do I become disabled? Does a family member get sick? Do they need the money? Now I'm taking the money out of the wealth plan and passing it off to another person, losing my potential of that wealth during my lifetime. So what people don't really understand is that there's all these potential positives and negatives that are going to affect your plan, but we cannot predict how the sequence in which those pressures are going to show up in your plan.
So what is the best way to react to these pressures? Since we don't have any way to predict them happening, what are some of the things that you implement into your planning with your clients to help react quickly, if needed, to these different positive and negative pressures, to either take advantage of them or hedge against them?
Well, step one is when you're building a plan, most of the financial strategies that we see out there are designed really to increase taxes over time, increase fees, increase risk, decrease the amount of money that you can take from them. So what you want to start with is, okay, get the assessment of where you are. Are the strategies that you have in place, what is the amount of risk that you're taking? And when I say risk, we all immediately think of market risk, okay? Well, there's lawsuit risk, there's disability risk, there's, premature death risk, right? There's estate taxes and all these things. So the idea is that there are things that you can do today that are going to minimize the impact of that stress. So for example, I would say 95% of the people that we encounter, regardless of their net worth and their income, when they come in, their protection from their car insurance and their homeowner's insurance and the liability protections that they have are dramatically underaccounted for. And what I mean by that is, you see all the ads on TV for all, save a lot, save a lot. Typically, the insurance company's mission, right, is to get maximum premium from you with the least amount of risk on their shoulders. And our goal is to change that equation and say, we want to pay the least amount of premium, but we want to put the insurance company on for the maximum amount of risk. Okay. So, the way the insurance companies do this is they have low deductibles and low liability limits, which is increasing the premium. So, the first thing is, could you get sued over the next 35 years of your wealth plan?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I definitely, I don't really want to think about that, honestly, John. That's a little bit scary, but the answer is yes, absolutely.
Right. And what would be the impact on that plan? That's depending upon how well you've protected your assets, right? And your assets are the accumulated wealth that you have. Your income is an asset and the potential of that income. So what we look at is we say, okay, if you got sued today, what would happen? If you got sued tomorrow, what would happen? If we went out and we said, let's find a way to pay the same insurance premiums that you're paying now, but maximize the protection so that you have the maximum umbrella liability for your personal wealth. So if you got in a car accident and you were sued, if you had a homeowner's issue, if you had, if you're at the mall and you trip somebody down the stairs and they're suing you, are you protected? Okay. So is that the right level of protection? Because right now today, that small little thing, if it happened on your way to work, it's too late, right? So you have to put that in place today. So making sure that whole protection area, I see people who have jet skis, they don't have them insured. Somebody on a jet ski, you got a problem. They've got, trampolines and pit bulls and all kinds of things in their houses and pools with gates that are not right. And they don't have the right protection in place. And a small little lawsuit's going to take you right out. We could have the best rate of return, the best financial strategy, and you get sued tomorrow. What was it worth? Nothing, right?
Well, okay. So hold on. I need to stop you there because I can understand the physical, right, things that we have that we need to insure, but shouldn't we do the same thing with our well-being in our life?
Correct. And very often we'll encounter people that, if you think about your income, if you couldn't work tomorrow because you were sick or disabled, how long would the money that you've currently accumulated last? And I kind of joke, it's how long would it take you to have to move back home with mom? And a lot of people that I'm finding today, within 4 to 5 years, they would be completely out of money in their 40s, in their 50s. Okay. And often they're passing up corporate benefits that would provide disability protection, or they self-employed and they haven't really assessed this. And we have a report that we do for people that will basically say, here's your current financial strategy. If you never become disabled, you're on track to have X millions of dollars. Okay. Everything's good. It was perfect. Okay. If you become disabled, you'll have to, whatever it is, you move home, you run out of money in 5 years. Okay. Not good. If you buy the disability insurance and you have an expense, okay, and you take it from your savings, not from lifestyle, but you take the money to pay for the premiums from savings, instead of creating that X million dollars, you're going to create a little bit less money. Okay. There's going to be an opportunity cost on it. If you never become disabled, you're like, see, I didn't need it. But if I become disabled with the proper disability insurance, I'm never going to run out of money. I'm going to have, income that's going to go till 65 or 70 that's going to be tax advantage or tax-free depending upon how it's being received. There's a lot of things that you can put in place that are going to protect you. And the idea is that everything's a trade-off, right? So if the plan is all protection and no savings, then the plan's not optimal, right? If the plan's all savings and not protection, the plan's not optimal. So what you want to be doing is you want to be balancing. You want to have maximum protection with the least amount of cost. That's the number one mission. And when I say that, it's maximum umbrella, maximum car insurance. You know, if the house burns down tomorrow, there's ads out there now. Do I want half a house? No, I want a full house. And I want everything that I've purchased inside of that house to be exactly the way it was. If I become disabled yesterday and today I get to buy the coverage, am I doing a needs analysis? No. I'm saying, what's the maximum? I'll just give me the maximum, right?
Yes.
So, but it comes down to cost. And what we're trying to do is reduce those costs to the bare minimum and maximize that protection. And through strategy, that's how you do this, right? And you go through it and you look at the life insurance, you look at the wills and the trusts, and you make sure that those strategies, that if I got sued, became disabled, died prematurely, those things, how does the plan work, okay? And am I going to be happy if that event occurs, and am I going to be happy if it never happens? And the answer to the question is the balance should get you there, okay? And the idea is that so you take the known that can happen and you insure it for the maximum protection with the least amount of cost. That's the goal. If it's maximum protection with maximum cost, then that wasn't a really good strategy.
Sure. Okay? That makes sense, yeah.
Right? And that's what I see in the area of protection. We see a lot of wasted premium dollars. The way the money's allocated is really not smart. It's underinsured. There's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of bad liability limits that people are extremely vulnerable, okay? Now, once you get that done, now you're going down and you're looking at how much cash do you have in the bank right now? If you had an emergency, like the furnace went, like we talked about earlier, and the refrigerator went, do you have liquid money to cover that, or are you going into debt? Well, if you have to go into debt, we need to increase that liquidity. And there's this rule of thumb in financial planning about 6 months. I don't meet a lot of people that have 6 months.
It's funny that you say that, John. I heard this from another financial advisor recently, and he's advising his clients to have 12 months of personal operating expenses available and liquid.
It really depends on the individual too, because it's tell me about the job that you have, tell me about the protection that you have, tell me about the security that you have, and what are the liquid assets. And so it's unique for each individual. And I think that's what people really need to understand is that when you're building a financial strategy, the idea is that you want to reduce taxes. You want to reduce fees and costs. You want to reduce risk from market volatility, risk from getting sued, risk from becoming disabled, risk from lawsuits again, and premature death. You want the risk go deeper and deeper and deeper. We want to increase the asset protection around that wealth. We want to increase the wealth by reducing the taxes and reducing the fees and reducing the costs. And you want to build a strategy so that when you get to retirement, you can enjoy the maximum amount of retirement income and then pass that wealth on. Most financial strategies actually do the opposite. They increase your taxes, they increase your fees over time, they increase your risk, and they decrease your retirement income. And that's the lessons and the understanding. What I want to do with Wealth Under Pressure is take every single one of these things and develop them more so people really can understand the pros and cons of the financial decisions that they're making. Most of the marketing is talking about how wonderful our strategy is, how great this product is, or whatever it is. And it's singular focus, right? And it's almost like my super duper product, if you buy it, it's going to save your life. It's going to be the savior of your financial plan. It's going to be the magic bullet that everybody's been searching for. And people respond to that. The reality is there is no miracle financial product that's going to solve a client's problems. It's the careful coordination of taking many financial products and organizing them in a unique method for the individual, right? So that your plan and your business partner's plan or your brother-in-law's plan are two different plans because the financial pressures that are present in your plan are different than that of his, right?
Right.
I mean, I see people who are going to inherit a lot of money And the way they're going to inherit the money is going to expose it to their personal creditors, their business creditors, college things, college FAFSA forms, and potentially inheritance tax. And it's like, you don't have to do that. You could take a completely different strategy, inherit the money, enjoy it, have it protected from creditors, have it protected from estate taxes, have it protected from, when I say creditors, divorces, et cetera, et cetera. Those are things that are really important. And we're kind of like, oh, mom and dad don't talk about this. Well, mom and dad really want to talk about this because they don't really want your ex-spouse having all their money.
Right.
Right. So that's the conversation is, mom, dad, we need to talk about this,
right.
And we need to present and understand what the options are so that if I could achieve all that asset protection and still get the enjoyment of it, then that's a really good strategy. And that's what we do. It's like if you look at our marketing and you look at the way we do things, we're never talking about a product. What we're talking about is strategy, right? And, you come and you talk to us. Let's understand what is unique about you and the dynamics that you have in the present situation that we find you in, right? Now let's go out and build a plan for you. And hey, you don't have enough cash. Well, the first step in the plan is to build up cash.
Sure.
Right? Let's do that. You have a debt problem. Let's solve the debt. Let's make the debt more efficient. Let's make it so that it's not, I see a lot of people just trying to get out of debt and they violate the liquidity rules and they end up right back in debt. It's kind of like Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog Day. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. It's just, you wake up the day and it's the same thing repeated because you haven't learned the lesson yet, right? You haven't figured out the secret sauce. And I think that's the unique message is that when we're educating the client, it is the strategy that you're taking increasing taxes or reducing taxes today and in the future? Is it increasing the fees and costs in your plan or decreasing them? Is it increasing your risk or decreasing it? Is it increasing the asset protection? Is it increasing the amount of wealth that you're going to have at retirement? Is it going to increase the retirement income or decrease it? If it's increasing taxes and it's increasing fees and it's increasing risk and reducing your asset protection and reducing your retirement income, why are we doing it?
Sure.
And that's what we see all the time because people have a tendency to think short. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not looking, when I kind of look at a client, okay, I'm 49 years old, all right? I've got a timeline that's out in front of me. I like to go to 100 plus or minus. I believe that, our parents who are in their 70s and 80s are probably going to live to close to 100. We're probably going to push over that 100 mark. And our kids are going to be way over that. So this thing about how many financial plans are designed to run out of money at age 85?
Yeah, most of them. That's that first line of death that is terrifying when you see those plans. So I'm going to pause you here because with everything that you've said here, there's a lot of stuff for our audience to digest. So I'm sure they have all recognized by the examples that you've given that there are a lot of pressures, either positive or negatively, that are affecting them. If they want to get in touch with you and have you basically do this pressure test for them, what is the best way for them to reach out?
They can hit our website at smallwoodassociates.com. And on there, we have a video that's called Financial Planning the Big Picture. It's 3 minutes and 15 seconds. And it goes deep into these financial pressures. It hits about 42 of them in about 3 minutes.
Wow.
And what I want people to do is, if that resonates with you, you can call us at 732-542-1565. Talk to Ellen. She'll get you on the calendar. And what we do is we have what we call a wealth curve pressure identifier conversation.
Okay.
And right on the website, you can sign up for a meeting. You have click the link, schedule now, schedule that, and we set time aside every week to do those kind of calls.
Okay.
And it's no obligation. There's no pressure. We'll have a 30-minute call. We'll talk about your financial pressure. And we'll make a determination do you think you and I are a good fit, or Ed and somebody on my team is a good fit? And if you are, we'll then walk you through the rest of the process and how it works. But again, I believe this conversation that we have with, clients, and we also have it with our people that are interested in this, is probably one of the best financial conversations they've ever had. I've had people say to me, oh, this is better than marriage counseling.
Sure. Well, and a lot of what you do probably is marriage counseling. All right. So now that everybody knows how to get in touch with you and the fact that they can go ahead and go under this pressure identifier that you have, I think we should probably go ahead ahead and get some closing thoughts here and wrap up our episode 2.
I just really want to position people to understand that you need to look at both the pros and the cons of every financial decision that you're making. And you really need to, most people that I see are only focused on the good stuff and they're not looking at the cons. And I think that's something that before you make a financial decision, you got to have both. You got to have pros and cons because everything has, there is no miracle product. And if there were, there'd be a line outside the door, right?
Absolutely.
And we wouldn't be doing this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, and there'd be a few people who are really, really wealthy and a lot of other people are squeezed out. All right, John, well, thank you very much for your thought leadership today.
Thank you.
This was episode 2. John Smallwood talking about what wealth under pressure is. And this podcast is Wealth Under Pressure. So we're going to continue to talk about those pressures both positively and negatively as we continue to go. Thank you very much. Stay tuned, and we'll talk soon.
Smallwood Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed by Smallwood Wealth Management and guests on this show are their own. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only. Moreover, no listener should assume that any discussions or information presented serves as the receipt of or a substitute for personalized advice from Smallwood Wealth Management or from any other investment professional and is not intended as an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Smallwood Wealth Management is not a law firm or accounting firm, and no portion of this presentation should be interpreted as legal, accounting, or tax advice. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation.